The moment Dr. Phil said, "Stop the cameras," no one understood what was happening. The studio went completely silent. 200 audience members froze mid-breath. The production crew exchanged confused glances. And sitting in the guest chair, a man in a $5,000 suit suddenly looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Dr. Phil stood up from his chair, walked to the center of the stage, and did something he rarely does on camera. He turned directly to the control room and said, "Hold on, stop the tape right now." What happened next would become one of the most talked about moments in the show's history. But to understand why Dr. Phil broke protocol and stopped everything, we need to go back to where this story began. 3 weeks earlier, the Dr. Phil show received an email from a woman named Rebecca. She was desperate. Her 19-year-old daughter, Emily, had dropped out of college, moved to Los Angeles, and was now living with a man Rebecca had never met, a man who called himself Marcus Steele. Marcus claimed to be a self-made millionaire, real estate mogul, investor, philanthropist. He posted photos on social media from private jets, luxury cars, five-star restaurants. He wore watches that cost more than most people's annual salary. And he had convinced Emily that she was living a fairy tale. But Rebecca knew something was wrong. Marcus wouldn't let Emily see her family. He controlled her phone. He made her quit her part-time job. He told her she didn't need college because he was going to take care of everything. When Rebecca confronted Emily, her daughter defended him. "You don't understand, Mom. Marcus is different. He's successful. He's teaching me about business, about life. You're just jealous because you've never had what we have." Rebecca's gut told her this wasn't love. This was control. And she needed help. That's when she reached out to Dr. Phil. The show's producers did what they always do. They investigated. They ran background checks. They looked into Marcus's businesses. They contacted people who knew him. And what they found was disturbing. Marcus Steele wasn't a millionaire. He was a con artist. His real name was Marcus Williams, age 34, no college degree, no successful businesses, no real estate portfolio. What he did have was a string of restraining orders from ex-girlfriends, unpaid debts, and a criminal record for fraud. The luxury lifestyle? All rented. The cars, the watches, the penthouse apartment, everything was borrowed, leased, or fraudulently obtained. He was living off credit cards and other people's names and money he manipulated from women like Emily. But Dr. Phil didn't just want to expose Marcus. He wanted to save Emily before it was too late. The show invited both Emily and Marcus to appear. Marcus agreed immediately. In his mind, this was free publicity, a chance to expand his image to millions of viewers. He had no idea what was coming. Emily arrived at the studio, nervous but defiant. She sat in the green room with her mother, refusing to make eye contact. "This is a waste of time. You're going to be embarrassed when everyone sees how amazing Marcus is." Rebecca said nothing. She just held a tissue and prayed that Dr. Phil could get through to her daughter. When Marcus walked into the studio, he did exactly what Dr. Phil expected. He worked the room. He shook hands with audience members. He smiled for cameras. He adjusted his designer tie and sat down in the guest chair like he owned the place. Dr. Phil watched him carefully. He'd seen men like Marcus before. Narcissists, manipulators, men who believed their own lies so deeply that they could sell ice to Eskimos. The interview began with standard questions. "So, Marcus, tell us about yourself." Marcus leaned back in his chair, confident. "Well, Dr. Phil, I'm a self-made entrepreneur. Started with nothing, built a real estate empire from the ground up. Now I help young people learn how to achieve financial freedom." Dr. Phil nodded. "And Emily is one of those people you're helping?" "Absolutely. Emily has incredible potential. I saw that the first time I met her. She was wasting her time in a system that doesn't teach real-world skills. I'm giving her an education you can't get in any classroom." Emily, sitting in the audience next to her mother, smiled proudly. She believed every word. Dr. Phil let Marcus talk. He let him build his story. He let him paint the picture of success and mentorship. And then very calmly, Dr. Phil asked the question that would change everything. "Marcus, can you tell us about the properties you own in Beverly Hills?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Sure, I own several properties, mixed-use developments, high-end residential. I'm actually working on a new project right now that's going to be groundbreaking." Dr. Phil nodded slowly. "And these properties are in your name?" "Of course."
That's when Dr. Phil reached down and picked up a manila envelope that had been sitting on the table between them the entire time. He held it for a moment, just looking at Marcus. And in that pause, something shifted in the air. The audience sensed it. The cameras caught it. Even Marcus felt it. Marcus, I want you to listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to say is going to change your life and Emily's life, and I need you to hear every word. Marcus's face faltered just slightly. Okay. Dr. Phil opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of documents. He placed them on the table between them. These, Dr. Phil said, are public records, property deeds, credit reports, background checks, court filings, and they tell a very different story than the one you just told me. Marcus's face went pale, and that's when Dr. Phil stood up, walked to the center of the stage, and did the words that stopped everything. Stop the cameras. The studio went silent. Dr. Phil turned to Marcus and spoke in a tone that wasn't angry. It was something more powerful than anger. It was truth. Marcus, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've sat across from liars, manipulators, abusers, and con artists. And I can tell you right now, you're not fooling me. But more importantly, you're not going to fool this audience anymore. And you're sure not going to fool Emily. He picked up the documents and held them up so the cameras could see. You don't own any properties in Beverly Hills. In fact, you don't own any properties anywhere. You're not a real estate mogul. You're not an investor. You're not a philanthropist. You are a fraud. Marcus tried to speak, but Dr. Phil raised his hand. No, you've had your time to talk. Now you're going to listen. Dr. Phil turned to the audience, specifically to where Emily was sitting, her face frozen in shock. Emily, I need you to hear this. The man sitting in this chair is not who he says he is. His name isn't Marcus Steele. It's Marcus Williams. He's 34 years old, no college degree, no successful businesses, no real estate portfolio. What he does have is a criminal record for fraud and multiple restraining orders from ex-girlfriends he manipulated just like he's manipulating you. Emily's hands began to shake.
Dr. Phil walked closer to her, his voice gentle but firm. The cars he drives, rented. The apartment you're living in, leased with fraudulent credit. The watches, the clothes, the lifestyle, it's all fake. And the worst part? He's been using your credit, your information, and your trust to fund it. Emily looked at Marcus, tears forming in her eyes. Is that true? Marcus stood up. Dr. Phil, this is ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about. Sit down, Dr. Phil said. Not loud, not angry, just absolute. Marcus sat. Dr. Phil turned back to Emily. Your mother brought you here because she loves you, not to embarrass you, not to control you, but because she saw what you couldn't see, that this man is dangerous, and if you stay with him, you're not just going to lose your education and your future, you're going to lose yourself. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil walked back to the center of the stage and did something he rarely does. He signaled to his producers off camera, "Bring them out." The audience murmured. Emily looked confused. From backstage, two women walked onto the set, both in their 20s, both looking nervous but determined. Dr. Phil gestured to them. Emily, I want you to meet Sarah and Jennifer. They both dated Marcus, and they both want to tell you their stories. Sarah stepped forward first. Her voice was steady, but you could hear the pain underneath. I met Marcus 2 years ago. He told me he was a millionaire, that he wanted to help me start my own business. He moved me into an apartment, bought me gifts, told me I was special. And then slowly he started controlling everything, my phone, my friends, my family. And when I finally tried to leave, I found out he'd opened credit cards in my name, taken out loans. I was $60,000 in debt, and I didn't even know it. Emily's face went white. Jennifer spoke next. He did the same thing to me, except it was worse. He convinced me to drop out of nursing school, said I didn't need it because he was going to take care of me. When I finally got away from him, I had nothing. No degree, no money, no credit. It took me 3 years to rebuild my life." The studio was silent, except for the sound of people crying. Dr. Phil turned to Marcus. "You want to respond to that?" Marcus said nothing. Dr. Phil picked up the envelope again and pulled out one more document. "This is a credit report. It's Emily's, and it shows that in the last 6 months, 3 new credit cards have been opened in her name. Total debt, $47,000. Marcus, did you open those credit cards?" Marcus looked down. Dr. Phil's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Answer the question." I was going to pay it back." "That's theft," Dr. Phil said. "That's fraud, and that's abuse." He turned to Emily. "This is not love. This is not a relationship. This is a crime." But what happened next is something no one in the room or watching at home saw coming. Dr. Phil walked over to Emily and knelt down next to her chair. He spoke quietly, just to her, but the microphones picked up every word. "Emily, I know you think you love him. I know he thinks he loves you. But love doesn't steal from you. Love doesn't isolate you from your family. Love doesn't destroy your future to build someone else's fake life. You're 19 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. But if you stay with him, that life is going to be gone before you even realize it." Emily was sobbing now. "Your mom is sitting right here," Dr. Phil continued. "She flew across the country because she was terrified she was losing you, not because she wants to control you, because she loves you. And right now, you have a choice. You can walk out of here with Marcus and continue down this path, or you can choose yourself. Choose your future. Choose truth." For a long moment, Emily didn't move. Then slowly she turned to look at her mother. Rebecca was crying too. "I love you, baby. Please, please come home." Emily looked at Marcus, then back at her mother, and then she stood up. She walked past Marcus without looking at him. She walked across the stage to where her mother was sitting, and she collapsed into her arms. The audience erupted in applause. Dr. Phil stood up and turned to Marcus. "You need to leave now." Marcus stood, tried to say something, then thought better of it. He walked off the stage without another word. When the camera stopped rolling, Dr. Phil did something else he rarely does. He stayed with Emily and Rebecca for over an hour off camera, away from producers and crew, just the 3 of them and Dr. Phil's personal team of counselors. They worked out a plan. Emily would move back home. Dr. Phil's team would help her enroll back in school and get financial counseling to deal with the debt Marcus had created. They connected her with a therapist who specialized in emotional abuse. They even helped Rebecca file a police report against Marcus for fraud and identity theft. 3 months later, Emily sent Dr. Phil a letter. She was back in college. She'd cut off all contact with Marcus. She was seeing a therapist twice a week, and most importantly, she was starting to trust herself again. She wrote, "Dr. Phil, you saved my life that day. Not just from Marcus, but from myself. I was so lost. I thought love was supposed to feel like what he gave me. I didn't know love was supposed to feel like what my mom showed me. Thank you for helping me see the truth." Dr. Phil keeps that letter in his office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone isn't to give them advice, it's to help them see the truth they've been too afraid to face. 6 months after that episode aired, Marcus Williams was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. He's currently serving a 3-year sentence. Emily graduated college with honors. She's now a victim advocate, helping young women recognize the warning signs of financial abuse. And Rebecca, she got her daughter back. Dr. Phil said it best in his closing remarks that day. The truth doesn't need your permission to exist. It just needs someone brave enough to speak it.